All right, I want to take a few minutes and look at this sheet that I asked you to do. And I asked you to do the front side, the one where the arrows were going to the east and to the west, going horizontal. Okay, so on this sheet, there's actually three equations that you'll need. One equation is Fnet equals MA. Okay? One equation is that Fnet as a vector is equal to F1, and I'm going to say plus F2. And the arrowheads over the top mean you have to put them in as vectors. You have to look after their directions. So what I mean by that is if you look at the very first block, you have F1 going one way and F2 going the other. One's going east and one's going west. We can find our Fnet. It's going to be 20 newtons going east, which would be positive, plus the 4 newtons going west, which would be negative. So what I mean by putting them in as a vector is put them in with their positives, negatives. So you should end up with an Fnet of positive 16 newtons. And so after it, you need to write east here because it works out to be positive. So down here you would write 16 newtons east. Now once you have that, then you can go up here and find your A because you have your Fnet and it gives you the M. And so you could divide both sides. A will just equal Fnet divided by M. So 16 newtons divided by 8 should give you 2 meters per second squared. And again, A is a vector. Remember, Newton told you today that Fnet and A are always in the same direction. So they would both be east. Okay, exactly the same idea over here, only this time the 15 is bigger. And so the net force would end up going to the west instead of the east, and find A. Then you're going to run into one that says uniform motion. Uniform motion means the motion isn't changing. And if the motion isn't changing, it must mean that the object is not accelerating. So A would be 0. And if A is 0, then Fnet must be 0. And if Fnet is 0, then what must F1 be? If there's 10 newtons going west, then there must be 10 newtons going east to cancel it out. Okay? Down here, if you look at this one, it tells us that the A is 0. And then it asks what type of motion is it. Up here it told us it was uniform motion, and I said that means the A is 0. Here it tells us the A is 0, and it asks what kind of motion. Okay, I did say that there are 3 equations that you will use. The third one is A is equal to VF minus VI over delta T. The kinematics ones are always allowed. And they're going to come in like down here, where it tells you the VF and the delta T, or the VI and the delta T. Okay, so I had asked you to work on the front of this, and I want you to continue to do that. When you come back in the next day, I'll ask if there's any that you had issues with. Probably the 2 that you will have issues with might be L, might be some of the ones with the F and the V's. And W, it has a third force. See this 6 newtons? But so you just add it in when we had our, where did that go? When we had our Fnet equals F1 plus F2, it would just become plus F3. And if there were 18 others, you would do plus F4, plus F5, plus F6, okay? So try the front. That's what I asked you to do last night. And if you got messed up, hopefully this helps. So keep going, because you are going to hand this in. And remember, everything needs to have a unit, and all the vectors need to have a direction. So the F's, the A's, the V's all need directions. The M's don't. They're not vectors. All right, so that's the front side, which hopefully was okay. The back side is almost the same, except this time the motion is up and down. So the equations that we're going to use on the back, it's still Fnet equals MA. It's still Fnet as a vector equals F1 as a vector, but this time instead of F2, it's Fg. Okay, and Fg is gravity, so another equation you'll be using is Fg equals mg. So if we look at like number 2, it tells us the mass, it tells us the acceleration. So we can find our Fnet. It's just going to be 6 times 3, which is 18 newtons. Fnet and A are always in the same direction, so it's going to be up. Once I have my Fnet, I can also find my Fg, because Fg is just equal to mg. So it's going to be 6 kilograms times 9.81. And when you do that, you should get 58.86 newtons, and gravity always, always, always acts down. So now that I have my Fnet and my Fg, I can find my F1, right? So Fnet is going up, positive 18 newtons. F1 we don't know, and Fg is going down, negative 58.86 newtons. Add the 58.86 to both sides, and you will get an F1 equal to 76.86 newtons, and that will go in here. It works out to be positive when I do it, which means it's going up, which makes sense. F1 needs to be bigger than Fg if this object's accelerating upward. Okay, that one looks identical, so I should do a different one that isn't. Oh, let's do one that doesn't have an m in it. Okay, so this one doesn't have an m in it, but it has Fg is equal to 70. So if Fg is equal to 70, then we can find m, because it's just going to be Fg divided by g. So take your 70 newtons and divide it by 9.81 meters per second squared, and you should get 7.1356 kilograms. Once you have your m, then you can find your, and you have a, you can find your Fnet. So multiply 7 point whatever by 2, 14.27115 newtons. Fnet and A are always in the same direction, so it'll be up. Once you have your Fnet, you have your Fg, you can find your F1. Just going to pull a piece of paper down here to do this. So again, it's Fnet as a vector is equal to F1 as a vector plus Fg. Fnet was going up, 14, so it goes in as positive, 14.27115 newtons. We're looking for F1, and Fg, we were told, was 70, so it'll be minus 70 newtons. Bring the minus 70 over, it becomes positive, and you get 84.2711 newtons. Ends up being positive, which means it's going up, 27115 newtons up. Okay, so the rest of today, I would like you to work on these. Next time I see you in class, I will ask you if there's any on the front or the back we need to go over, and then you can take them home for one more night, and then the next time you're back, you can hand them in. Okay? If you want to show me the work, you are most welcome to. If you want to attach another sheet, but I would like all your answers on here. It'll just make it easier for me to grade. Okay? Thank you.